Hey guys, I just came back from my locals here at Unrated Gamings where I got first place with scraps. So I'm going to do a quick deck profile, but before I do, decided to give you a deck profile. I was able to convert funny enough, I was able to convert the store credit that I got and was able to buy an ulti scrap dragon with the store credit that I got. So if you guys want to be able to convert your store credit into actual single cards that you might want for Edison or even for Tengu, then you can actually do this at Unrated Gaming. So I highly recommend you guys show up there. And yeah, this is a really cool prize that I was able to get, especially since I'm playing scraps. I was able to get a scrap ulti. So yeah, let's go into the deck profile here. So I did play scraps today. I actually went through some of the decks in format library and saw, not format library, Tengu Plant Town, which is run by a guy named Photoshoot. I don't know his real name, but he decided he had several deck lists on there, and from Photoshoot, and I wanted to take some of the ideas that he had and incorporate it into my deck. But also, I realized that he was also not playing cards that were not in his scrap list. I saw all his scrap list, and I just found that some of the cards that he plays are not. Some of the cards that I think are good, he's not playing. So I was able to modify his deck and take it to first place at this locals that had about 12 players, I believe. I think it was 12, maybe more. So Tengu plant is growing, so just let you guys know that Tengu is a growing format. So he plays 2 scrapyard. I actually played 3. And the reason why I played 3 is because even though Thunder King Ryo is main decked in this format, you still want to be able to start with the scrapyard because you're not going to be able to see cards. You're not going to be able to see your scrap cards that you need if you don't open up with this. So how many scraps do I play? I play about, if you count the scrapyard itself, this is going to be 3, 6, 9, 10, and I play 11. So I play 11 different scraps, including this, not different scraps, but including the scrapyard, I play a total of 11. So I play the 3 scrap chimera. I think a lot of people are only playing 2 copies of this. And while I do agree that it does get clunky sometimes, so it gets clunky, yes. And if you revive a scrap beast off of this, and scrap beast was able to retrieve this off your graveyard, it's almost as if you have functionally 4 or 5 copies, depending on what happens. So the scrap beast needs to be destroyed by a scrap effect, or scrap goblin has to be destroyed by a scrap effect to be able to recur these guys. So I can see the argument for why you want it to be why you only want to have 2 copies of this rather than 3. But I play 3 copies because I do want to see it in my opening hand in the event that I'm unable to resolve a scrap storm. Because scrap storms can be actually interacted with by being forbidden lanced, it would actually prevent me from destroying the scrap beast. So I want to be able to have hard draw the chimera so that I can normal summon the chimera, revive the scrap beast, and then make a scrap dragon. So that's why I play 3 copies. I know it's kind of weird that people are playing. It is weird for me to play 3 copies, but and it does get clunky. But I preferred that I have a clunky handful of chimeras where I can resolve it multiple times, where I can and not have to worry about not opening it. Is my philosophy on this. And then, of course, I played the 3 Scrap Priests. This is a really important card of the deck because it is a card that is 16k base. So you're able to revive this off of the Scrap Chimera and then go into your instant Scrap Dragon. And then the other scrap cards I play, and nobody plays this in the Tengu Plant Town Discord, is I play the Refrigerator, Scrap Golem, and the Scrap Golem. So a lot of people don't like Scrap Golem because if they do open up with him, they had to find a way to tribute summon for him in order for him to be able to generate value. However, the upside of this is that whenever he is in the graveyard, whenever your Scrap Dragon gets destroyed by any of your opponent's card, including by battle and by card effect, it doesn't necessarily have to be sent to the graveyard, I believe. Oh, it has to be sent to the graveyard. So if this card is sent to the graveyard, it will revive any non-scrap monster from the graveyard to the field. So I really like that effect, and so I will take the what is it called, the risk of playing this card if it means that I can revive the Scrap Golem if this card gets destroyed. This means that if this gets destroyed, if your Scrap Dragon gets destroyed and you're able to revive this, you have an instant Scrap Dragon without normal summoning or special summoning, or without committing to a normal summon. Because the Scrap Golem can then revive a Scrap tuner from your graveyard to either side of the board. So I never use that effect where I revive it to the side, your opponent's side of the board. There's no need to do that. But if you have a Scrap Goblin in your graveyard, that's another Scrap Dragon. And if you have a Scrap Beast in your graveyard, you can make a level 9 Twin Dragon. So that is why I like the Golem. I don't know why it's... I can see why people don't play Scrap Golem and the Scrap Goblin combo, but I can also see why I feel like that's incorrect. So that's my ratios for the Scrap. And of course, I do play the 3 Reborn Tengu. Okay, so Reborn Tengu, obviously a staple in this deck because it's a non-tuner, but the Scrap Chimera here is has a stipulation where you cannot use this for any material, for synchro material, other than for a Scrap monster. So if you want to access other level 8 monsters in your deck, you have to rely on Reborn Tengu, and you have to rely on Scrap Golem. Okay, so other level 8 synchro monsters are important to this deck, especially when you go into game 2 and 3, where you're siding floodgate cards or cards that you want to protect your back row, because this deck does play a heavy amount of traps, whereas other decks do not. Because you play such a low amount of monsters in your deck, you have room in your deck for non-engine traps, essentially. So I do play the 2 Veilers as my only 2 hand traps in the deck, because in theory, if my opponent were to destroy all my back row using Heavy Storm, an MST, or even Flip Decree, you need another line of defense where you can interact with your opponent's monster so that you can protect your monster from being banished. So, so Scrap Dragon, if it gets banished, it never gets its effect. So if people Caius, for example, or if they use Orient Dragon, which is another card, to banish your Scrap Dragon is not going to be able to revive a non-tuner or a non-synchro Scrap monster from your graveyard. So you need Effect Veiler in your deck to be able to shut it off those aggressive plays. And I believe that is all. So this is kind of weird for me. I've seen a lot of lists, and for some reason I don't see people playing this card right here. And this card is amazing in Scraps. Why? Because it provides you Earth non-tuners, right? So because you're playing Earth non-tuners in your deck, or if you have access to an Earth non-tuner, then you're able to synchro summon with these tokens with the Scrap tuners, which means you have access to Naturia Beast and Naturia Barkion. And I don't understand why people are not playing Naturia Beast and Naturia Barkion in their Scrap list, but I think that's a huge mistake not to play, because there are matchups where your opponent has tons of spell cards to be able to pretty much control the flow of the game. So having Naturia Beast is really useful in the Scrap archetype. Being able to put a Scrap Dragon next to a Naturia Beast means that your Scrap Dragon can't be mind controlled, and then the Scrap Dragon can pop another card. It can be Dark Hold. You can protect your back row with against Heavy Storm, MST, you name it. The fact that I can make Naturia Beast as well as being able to use Naturia Barkion is phenomenal. You are playing an Earth deck, and I think it's a mistake not to play Scapegoats, especially in this deck. Being able to utilize your tuner and an Earth tuner or Earth non-tuner to be able to make these guys. More on that later. That was my extra deck. Yeah, and then a card that I didn't like, but I also liked, was Foolish Burial. And the idea behind Foolish Burial is if you open up a lot of your Chimeras and you don't open up Scrap Beasts, you can Foolish Burial your Scrap Beasts. And then under Thunder King Ryo, if you can't resolve your yard, you can normal summon the Scrap Beast and then revive this. You can normal summon the Scrap Chimera, revive the Scrap Beast that you dumped from Foolish, and then Sacred Summon the Scrap Dragon. Obviously, this card is really bad once everything is set up. So I took that with a what's the word I'm looking for? Even though this card helps you start, it doesn't do anything after. So it has a what's the word I'm looking for? Diminishing return. Yeah. So this card is a diminishing return card, and because it's only good for setting up, and after you've already set up, it doesn't do anything. I'd rather have a card that at least helps me set up against a Thunder King Ryo, and I think the Foolish Barrel is the way. I did cut an Upstart Goblin for this, and I am playing the Upstart Goblins as a spell, and I'm only playing 2 copies of Upstart Goblin. So I am playing only 38 cards in my deck, but if you count Foolish Burial and you count the Scrapyard, I guess you can call this deck a less than 38. It's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm actually playing 34 copies if you think about it. So that's why I play the Scrapyard. Of course, I also play the Duality. So Duality, it takes a card out of your deck as well. But the downside is that you lose your ability to special summon. So I only play 2 Duality. It's bad against Thunder King and Ryle, obviously. But it's good for setting up because sometimes you want to be able to open up with the Scrapyard and the Scrap Storm. So you can help you set up. So if you don't open up with, if you have the Scrap Beast or a way to access Scrap Beast and you have no Scrap Storm, Duality helps you see it. And that it actually helps because after you thin out your deck with the upstarts, then you want to be able to Duality after and then see your Scrap Storm. So you definitely need Scrap Storm in your Scrap deck, and that's why I play it. Other spell cards I play is obviously only one MST. I don't play 3, but ideally, yeah, in other game 2s and 3, people are going to side deck cards against you, such as Bottomless Trap Hole or whatever it is to banish your guy. And then I play the Heavy Storm because it's a really good spell, and the Monster Reborn because I can actually reborn the Scrap Golem with this. So that's the reason why I like Monster Reborn, especially in this deck, is because I can do that and then generate a Scrap Dragon. So Reborn becomes a Scrap Dragon. With Golem in the graveyard. I forgot to mention with Scrap Storm, you can also dump Golem as well. So if you don't ever want to draw him and you want to make your Scrap Dragon really powerful when it gets that revival ability, you can actually use the Scrap Storm to dump the Golem to the graveyard. And if ever your Scrap Dragon gets destroyed, then you can revive the Scrap Golem thanks to the Scrap Storm. And then I play the Mind Control because of Reborn Tengu and Thunder King Ryo. I want to be able to take the Reborn Tengu or the Thunder King, synchro with it, or Xyz with it if it's a Tengu monster. And then I have the Book of Moon to set the Thunder King Ryo, as my previous deck profiles before have said that Book of Moon is really good against Thunder King Ryo and being able to use it even against a Gachi Gachi too. So you can set a Gachi Gachi with the Book of Moon, and you can make your Scrap Dragon pop the Gachi Gachi while it's set, so it doesn't have that effect to be able to keep it alive. Okay, that's all my spells. For my traps, I play the Solemn Brigade, the 2 Solemn Warning, and the Solemn Judgment. This helped a lot against a lot of my matchups that play cards like Mind Control. I was able to resolve this against the hero player that I played in the tournament, and this was the key factor in helping me win that matchup. I also had 2 Phoenix Chain. The idea behind Phoenix Chain is that once you use it to negate an ability, you can actually use the Scrap Dragon to target this card and pop the monster, where it makes it so that Phoenix Chain is a negate and destroy trap with the Scrap Dragon. Other abilities it does, and a lot of people forget this, is that it prevents the attack from happening. So you can actually lock an opponent's monster, such as, I don't know if people are citing Vanity's Fiend, but you can lock a Vanity's Fiend and then you can special summon. I actually main decked the Bottomless Trap Hole to be able to stop any monsters that come in afterwards. This is good against agents. So because agents is running around pretty heavy in the beginning of this format, this is really good against Venus. Because if you balance their Venus, then that means that they have to banish a agent from the hand to be able to special summon a Hyperion. Then I have the Torrential here to be able to... Torrential is an interesting card. I don't know if I like it, but I definitely do like it because I play the Tengu, the Reborn Tengu. So it helps me gain my momentum back by resetting the board. And then this deck is really good to an empty board because I could just normal summon the Chimera and then have the best monster, I guess. And I play the 2 Call the Haunted. Call the Haunted is the same theory as Monster Reborn, being able to revive your Scrap Golem and then being able to synchro with the Scrap Golem, leaving the Call the Haunted behind, so that the monster that you bring out with Scrap Golem, the synchro monster that you bring out with Scrap Golem, can just pop the Call the Haunted. So that's the theory behind it. And then you can also revive Naturia Beast too. I actually use this to revive a Naturia Beast, so that's really good against decks that utilize a lot of spells. Okay, so that's the main deck. It's got exactly 40, so yeah. Let's go into the extra deck. So extra deck, you guys already know I play the Naturia package. I also play the 3 Scrap Dragon because you need it, because your opponent's going to go through all of them. Sometimes they won't. If you're playing against an aggro deck, you're probably going to need, you probably don't need all 3 in that matchup. But if you're playing against a deck that's like very control based, then yeah, you're going to go through all your Scrap Dragons, most likely. I play the Scrap Twin Dragon because of Golem. Golem's able to revive the Scrap Beast, and then you're able to go into the Scrap Twin Dragon. For those of you guys who don't know, what he does is he destroys one of your cards and then returns 2 cards, targets 2 cards on your opponent's side and returns it back to their hand. So it's really good against boards that have a lot of extra deck cards on them. So you can just bounce it. It's also another name too, so that you could revive a scrap non-synchro monster from your graveyard, so that you can do the golem and do it again. I played the scrap Archon, never made it, but you can make it theoretically with the scrap chimera and the scrap golem, but I never made it. What I did make was Stardust. Stardust is really good, especially in game 2s and 3. Being able to protect your floodgate from MST and Heavy Storm is the idea with Stardust, so that's why I play him. The ones I did not make, the level 8s I did not make, is Colossal Fighter and Thought Ruler, just for life gain for Thought Ruler, but I never made them, and I never made Colossal. So most likely your 8s are going to be Scrap Dragon, most likely. I do play the Xyz package. I play the Roach and the Utopia. I actually made a Utopia because it's good to protect your Naturia Beast sometimes. So being able to have this guy next to your Naturia Beast means that they had to find a way to attack the Naturia Beast without having its attack negated. So that's why I play the Utopia. And I play the Roach for like BLS and agents, basically. So any deck that special summons any monster level 5 or higher. I play the Bryanak for the 1 level 6, except for Barkion. And I played the Black Rose, and I played the TG Hyper Bear. Never made any of these. You don't need it. But yeah, you definitely just need the Scrap Dragons. That's why it's a scrap deck. Okay, that's my ulti scrap that I won. And the side deck, let's go into the side deck real quick. I side the 2 MSTs for the GK matchup, but anytime that I'm playing against a deck that uses reliant on the field spells, such as Dragoonides, I can flip this card when they search with their Ravine, for example, and they won't be able to get a search. And then other spells that I can probably hit is probably Bottomless Trap Hole or something. But you don't care about Warning, and you also don't care about Thunder King. 2 Black Horn of Heaven for the Agent matchup. If they play a Hyperion, I can Black Horn it. If they make a BLS, I can Black Horn it. So that's kind of the idea. Just make the big monsters go away without having them call priority to pop a card. 2 Maxis, it's just like I said before in my deck profiles in the past, I don't think Maxis should be main decked. So I side deck 2. Yeah, so any deck that special summons a lot and you want to draw going second, just play Maxi. 2 DD Crows for Infernities, because I was hoping that people would play Infernities after I showed them my list. So yeah, I wanted to have something against Infernities so that I can disrupt their play. And then I side 2 Debunks here. I never sided this card in, and I never needed to. The idea is to be able to side this card instead. This card is the Floodgate card I was talking about. If you can make a Stardust to protect this card, then you're winning against decks that utilize banishing, such as Agents. So if they can't banish with their Hyperion, then they have to tribute summon for Hyperion, but Hyperion can't use its effect to pop this back row. So Stardust will get run over, but they still can't, banish to pop. So that's why I play it. There's a lot of matchups where it's also good against, such as Infernities. They have to use Infernity Break to control the board, but they can't banish, so that walls them off from using it. Other matchups where this is good is if you are playing against a deck that banishes a lot from your side of the board, and you want to protect your Scrap Dragon. This is a really good board too, where they can't banish this guy with Orient Dragon or DD Crow. So if you normal summon the Scrap Chimera and you target the beast and they try to DD Crow, you can just chain the Iron Wall, and then DD Crow is dead. Yeah, that's the reason why I played. I play the 2, so that's why I never needed the Imperial Iron Wall. They can side Max C against the deck, but you're always gonna make a Scrap Dragon even under Max C, and then you're always gonna pop. Unless you're making a Scrap Dragon with a Reborn Tengu, then I advise you to not Synchro Summon, because a Reborn Tengu is a mandatory effect to special summon. And then I side one more Veiler just in case people side deck more MSTs in game 2s and 3. So that's why I have that in there. And I have the 2 Compulsory. So Compulsory is really good, I would say, because it's one of those cards that kind of does something against a lot of different decks. It's hard to explain, right? The idea is that once the monster is already established, like the Xyz monster is already established, these cards are kind of dead. So you kind of have to rely on cards like Scrap Dragon to kind of deal with the problem. But if Scrap Dragon is not enough to deal with the problem, such as Gachi Gachi, for example, then you have Compulsory. And you also don't want to destroy the Shining is another one too. So because you don't want to destroy the Shining, then you have Compulsory to deal with the Shining from floating the effects. But yeah, that's it. That's all my deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will have a gameplay video where I talk about my matchups. So if you guys are interested in watching the gameplay video for scraps, specifically this scrap list, then yeah, tune in on to the next video. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one, and hopefully I'll win another first place deck profile for you guys so I can show you guys how to play other decks. All right, peace out, guys.